I personally think it's important as a part of our family culture to normalize those types of things, to not make it bad, wrong, shameful, inappropriate. I mean, whatever, fill in the blank, to have feelings of grief or to be dealing with grief or to have to go through the process of grief. Like, I think one of it, despite the fact that Greg and I said, you know, our family spends 95% of our time in positive emotions, that doesn't mean that we don't feel negative emotions, and especially that we don't feel them when we should be feeling negative emotions. We're not falsely feeling happy emotions when we should be feeling grief or sadness. That needs to be a part of the culture, and we need to be able to embrace that, normalize it, let our kids know that that's okay to experience those emotions, that there's nothing wrong with you for experiencing those emotions. And then we teach, model, process them with them, you know, and help them go through the process so that, because I think one of the biggest dangers that we see, feeling negative emotion is normal. That's a part of the human experience. Feeling anxiety, feeling worry, feeling stress, feeling depression, that is a part of the human experience. So we never try to take that away from our kids. If they feel those emotions, I'm going to normalize that and validate it. What I do want to do, though, is give them the tools to move out of that negative emotion appropriately, right? Because the biggest mistake we see is that people will get stuck in negative emotion and then identify with that emotion. That's when they say, I am depressed. You're literally identifying with the feeling of depression. No, I feel depression sometimes, but I'm not depressed. I feel anxiety, but I am not anxious, right? There's a big difference there. And we kind of think that that doesn't matter. It really does matter, because there's nothing wrong with feeling anxiety. There is something wrong with staying in anxiety or staying in depression or staying in grief forever. Although grief is something that can be tricky and last longer. But the point is, we can feel those emotions, but we shouldn't be staying in those emotions. We need the tools to help ourselves and our children move through those emotions and back into higher level emotions. That's what we're talking about mostly.
Yep.
So when we say we spend most of our time in positive emotion, it's not that we don't feel negative emotion, because we do. Frustration, irritation, annoyance, anger. And we've gotten to the point, and we've been able to teach our kids enough that we can feel that negative emotion and we can move through it. And we've learned how to do it even, you know, like with practice, you can learn to do it pretty quickly. In fact, right before this started, literally, I think it was 3 minutes before it started, my 7-year-old had a pretty big emotional upset because she's been spending, I don't know, the last
hours and hours and
hours and hours making these little foldable paper Minecraft things. So she's making little paper Minecraft people and dragon. Like, she spent hours building this dragon. She has, I don't know, all of the grass and the bookshelves and all the Minecraft stuff. Like, this is how she plays Minecraft. It's with paper. We have this.
We don't allow our kids to play Minecraft, by the way.
Right. This is how she plays it. We have a worker here who's from Brazil, and she has a little boy that's 3. And because of the situation and circumstance, when she's doing some work for us, sometimes he comes and plays with our girls. Well, he's 3, and he smashed a bunch of her Minecraft stuff that she's been working on. She was upset, understandably so, especially since this is the second time it's happened. So I had to go in there. It was like 3 minutes to starting, and I had to help her. But instead of like telling her, it's fine, don't worry about it, just stop, you know, and worrying about the, I've got to start coaching and this and that, I legitimately just like normalized her emotion, because yes, you're going to feel frustrated when something like this happens. You've been working on something, someone destroyed it. That's frustrating. That's irritating. So I validated her emotion. I normalized it. But what I did was focus on what kind of solutions can we do? Like, what can we do to make this, one, not happen again, and to fix what went wrong? And so I just said, you know what? We're going to find a solution. We're going to find a place to put this where he can't reach it. And I will happily print out everything else you need to be able to remake the ones that got broken. And that was enough to help her feel better and like, okay, there's a solution here. The world's not ending, so that I could then, tell her I love her and come back in here to work. So, that's a process that 10 years ago would have taken me, who knows, like a long time to work through with a 7-year-old, because I hadn't learned all of the skills of, for myself, being able to process emotion, and then to be able to help my children process it, to be able to focus on the right things and the right words, to be able to help them feel better about something, or to move through it. So I don't know, that's just a quick little example, but essentially what we're trying to focus on is, yes, we want to feel good in our families, but not a false happy, just be happy all the time kind of good. It's a legitimate feeling good where you've worked through the negative emotions so you can get back to a more positive emotion. So one of the I think best descriptions of how to tell whether or not you have processed something, some sort of emotion, is if you can think or talk about that experience without it bringing up lots of emotion, right? If you can think or talk about it in a unemotional way, a matter of fact way. If there's something that I have not processed, then if I try to talk to my husband about it or someone else brings it up, I feel very like avoidant. I feel like it might make me cry, or it might make me angry.
It feels like it's right near the surface.
Yeah. That is a sign of how to tell whether or not something has been processed, right? Where if you've processed something, if you've worked through it, if you've been able to handle it and then release it, you can talk about that thing and it can be very matter of fact. And you can describe how you used to feel about it, but you don't still feel that way about it, if it makes sense. Now, getting more into detail about how you do that, hands down, I mean, if we have to pick one thing, essentially, human beings process through thinking, and thinking happens best through talking.
Or writing.
Well, I was going to add writing as another form of talking. You're talking to yourself, you're talking to a piece of paper, but it's the same idea. You're talking, but that talking can happen by talking to another person, or it can happen by writing about it. Or I've even found sometimes, and this seems a little weirder because people might think you're crazy or something, but sometimes I'll go talk to myself about it in the car, or there was a strategy you heard once about talking to the trees. You go out into nature and you just talk, like you're talking through it. Because most of us think by talking. And I know that, especially for me, talking helps way more than just thinking about it, because if I just think about it, I feel like all the thoughts and emotions go around and around in my head, but they never get out. And until I get them out, I haven't really processed them, because you're trying to get them out. You're trying to release them. You're trying to have them leave and move on, right? I don't know how else to describe this, but to me, that's the idea. And so I prefer talking, and my husband has thankfully learned the skill of listening. So when I have to talk about something, I talk to him and he listens until, again, I know. And now I've learned how to do this process quickly. So I can sit down and talk about something, and something that used to maybe take me, I don't know, who knows, a week or more to process.
Now only takes 6 days.
Now it's 6 days. I'm down a day. No, often I can, maybe if it's a long time, it's an hour or two.
Yep.
But the point is, by the time I'm done and he's patiently sat through all of that, it's processed. I'm done. The emotions are gone and I feel better. And now I can move on. I can move on with my day. I can move on with my life. Now, it doesn't always take an hour or two. Sometimes I can talk about things and it's 10 minutes. I know maybe you don't feel like it's ever that short, but I'm going to start timing. There's definitely a caveat there, because you do have to be careful. And I know that there are few husbands who can handle that because the other danger too, the other risk, and we had to learn this, was it used to be I would process by telling him, which can come across as complaining, or like, here's a list of demands you need to take care of. And then you would
Yeah, I feel responsible
feel
for it. Like
responsible
I have to
for
take
it,
care of it or fix it.
whatever.
Yeah.
So we've had to learn this process of like, I'm processing my emotions right now. I just need to tell them to you. And he'll be like, oh, okay. And he listens. And then when, you know, he might provide some feedback or thoughts or whatever. And then I get it out. I'm done. I move on and we're good. Neither one of us is, you know, disturbed for the rest of the day by this. That's maybe an ideal. But if you can't do that, that's why writing is a great option. Because I'll just, you know, I've also done that before. In fact, one of the strategies is you get a pad of paper like this and you literally just write. And one of the approaches is it can be as blunt, honest, open, rude, horrible as it needs to be, if that's a thing that needs to happen. But then when you're done, you just rip it out and you throw it away. So it's not something you like, it's not like journaling per se, right? You're not going to keep this forever and have your kids read it one day. It's like, I'm trying to figure out, especially if it's really negative or disturbing thoughts. You write it out and then you throw it away. You can rip it up. You can burn it even if you want. That's another strategy for processing.